The year is 1988. Our main man, Dong-wook, and his ride-or-die best friend, Jun-ji, they got big dreams of striking it rich and achieving financial freedom. They're pro-drivers, and they took a job all the way from Korea to Saudi Arabia to transport weapons for some shady characters doing business out here. But then, disaster. A prosecutor's car appears in their rearview mirror. Dong-wook, fueled by pure frustration and a burning desire to avoid getting pinched by this corrupt prosecutor, slams on the gas and refuses to be taken down. But what he doesn't know is that his childhood nemesis, the bully who made his life hell growing up, has also spotted him, seeking revenge for years of pent-up humiliation. This skinhead dude, this complete meathead, doesn't hesitate to chase after Dong-wook. With enemies hot on his tail both in front and behind, Dong-wook's instincts kick into overdrive. He floors the accelerator, pulling off a series of insane 360-degree spins that send sand flying everywhere, completely disorienting his pursuers. After successfully escaping both threats, the three make their way back to their old hideout. Hearing that Dong-wook's brother has returned, Yoon-hee jumps on her motorcycle and speeds off to meet him. The whole crew is catching up, reminiscing about old times. Woo-sam, the smooth-talking charmer of the group, starts belting out a song. For a moment, it looks like everything will be alright. They're reunited after a long time. They might be able to finally settle down and live a peaceful life. But then, tragedy strikes. The prosecutor arrives with a whole squad of cops. Pyong-wook wastes no time, laying out the details of every crime they've committed. While the legal violations may not be super serious, Pyong-wook is ready to use his authority to pin all kinds of trumped-up charges on them. It looks like the crew is going down for the count. Dong-wook is quick on the uptake. He realizes that Pyong-wook must want something from them. Seeing that Dong-wook is onto him, Pyong-wook drops the charade and proposes a deal. If Dong-wook's crew can complete a task for him, he'll erase their criminal records. Then, Pyong-wook explains what's going on. During the previous president's dictatorial regime, the country was suffering. Even though the leader is about to be impeached and removed from power, his right-hand man, Chairman Kong, still controls the loan sharking industry. And working under Chairman Kong is a powerful assistant who's the former commander of the Defense Security Command. Together, they secretly manage the government's slush fund. Because their whole operation is about to collapse, Chairman Kong needs to quickly launder all that dirty money. But recently, their regular getaway driver got thrown in jail by the prosecutor's office. So, Chairman Kong is looking for a new driver. Now, what Dong-wook's crew needs to do is go undercover and become a driver for the other side. After that, they wait for a chance to infiltrate the organization and find evidence of Chairman Kang's crimes. And because Chairman Kong is going to choose his new drivers through a car race, Dong-wook's crew has to compete. Even though they know this is a dangerous mission, Dong-wook doesn't really have a choice, because they can only escape Pyong-wook's schemes. The crew has no idea that this is the start of their nightmare. After getting the information about the qualifying race from Pyong-wook, everyone quickly gets to work. Dong-wook wastes no time in devising a plan. The next day, according to the rules set by Chairman Kong, 5 cars arrive at the starting point and wait. Seeing that all the drivers are ready, the beautiful female referee calls out the teams to register and receive their cargo for the race and a map of the course. As the 5 cars rev their engines, the fierce competition officially begins. Right off the bat, Dong-wook manages to cut off one of his rivals. But because his partner can't read the map, their car heads down a congested road. Luckily, Dong-wook, thanks to his excellent driving skills, schemes. The crew address. Turns out, Chairman Park has been secretly investigating Guangzhou for a while now. He didn't say anything because he was hoping he could still convince Dong Chiol to let it go. But now, there's no point in keeping it a secret. Dong Chiol takes the paper and walks out of the house. But inside, he's a mess of conflicting emotions. He's incredibly grateful for everything Chairman Park has done for him. But just as Dong Chiol is about to leave, he notices that the security cameras in front of Chairman Park's house. Alarm bells start ringing in his head. Something is definitely wrong. He immediately turns around and heads back inside. Meanwhile, on the other side of the house, a man dressed in black has quietly snuck into the bedroom. He injects Chairman Park, who is sound asleep, with some kind of poison. Then, he reaches for Chairman Park's glasses, obviously trying to make it look like a natural death. Just then, Dong Chiol bursts into the room and sees what's happening. He springs into action. In just a few moves, he takes down the man in black. Chairman Park, who has just been poisoned, wakes up. He knows he doesn't have much time left. Chairman Park, with his last ounce of strength, shoves the glasses that the guy in black didn't manage to grab into Dong Chiol's hand. He gasps, "Bury it," and with that, he breathes his last. Dong Chiol quickly finds a hidden camera on the assassin's body. The people on the other end of the camera are freaked out by Dong Chiol's sudden appearance. Just then, they intercept a call from Chairman Park's house to the police. The leader of this group, a guy named Sukho, sends in a team disguised as cops to take down Dong Chiol and retrieve the glasses. But Dong Chiol sees right through their disguise. A brawl breaks out, and realizing he's outnumbered, Dong Chiol sees an opening and jumps out the window, making his escape. Sukho, watching from a distance, is furious. He's barely holding it together. Later that night, Sukho sneaks back into Chairman Park's house. He kills the entire staff, the butlers, everyone, and stages it to look like a mass shooting. Then, he uses this as an excuse to frame Dong Chiol. The next day, Sukho calls an emergency meeting to discuss the manhunt for Dong Chiol. Turns out, Sukho is the director of the National Security Office. Why he's doing all this, we'll get to that later. After investigating and finding out who Dong Chiol really is, Sukho realizes he's dealing with a serious threat. So, he reaches out to Colonel Min, a professional spy catcher from the military intelligence agency. This guy used to be a top operative, but now he's just a training instructor at the Sinbin training camp. The reason for his downfall is actually tied to Dong Chiol. It turns out that Colonel Min ran into Dong Chiol on a mission, and Dong Chiol, with his superhuman strength, killed all of Colonel Min's men. In the end, even Colonel Min was captured. He thought Dong Chiol was going to kill him, but after seeing a picture of Colonel Min's family in his wallet, Dong Chiol let him go. But after that, Colonel Min's career tanked. He lost the trust of the organization. The fact that Dong Chiol let Colonel Min go raised a lot of suspicions. But now, this is Colonel Min's chance to prove himself. So, he throws himself into the investigation. Sukho assigns Colonel Min an assistant named Joe. Coincidentally, Joe is Colonel Min's student. The two have a really good relationship. With Joe's help, Colonel Min starts digging and manages to find Dong Chiol's address. Meanwhile, Dong Chiol is on his way home to pack his things, carrying the glasses. On the way, he takes a closer look at the glasses and discovers a microfilm hidden in one of the lenses. So, he calls Secretary Choi, Chairman Park's secretary, and tells him about the glasses. However, before returning the glasses, he wants to take care of his own business first. In the middle of the conversation, Dong Chiol suddenly hears a radio frequency change in the background on the other end of the phone. He immediately realizes that Secretary Choi is being monitored. He quickly hangs up because, just like the assassins were able to intercept the call and impersonate cops the other night, that proves someone inside the police department is working against him. Just then, Dong Chiol spots several strange men outside his apartment. Sensing danger, he rushes out into the street, but finds even more suspicious people lurking around. He quickly jumps into the car of a female reporter nearby. This woman, named Jae-young-hee, is a tenacious journalist. She's been working on a documentary about the lives of North Korean defectors in South Korea. She's been following Dong Chiol around for ages, trying to get him to agree to be filmed, but he always refused. So, she's been forced to secretly film him from a distance. Dong Chiol jumps in the car and tells Jae-young-hee to drive. With her help, he manages to escape the encirclement. Afterwards, Dong Chiol quickly gets out of the car and disappears. He doesn't want to drag Jae-young-hee or anyone else into this mess. During his escape, Dong Chiol sees the news about Chairman Park being broadcast on a giant screen in the street. They're saying he's the murderer. This makes no sense to Dong Chiol. He starts searching for a public phone booth, planning to call the person in charge of the case to explain the situation. At the same time, Colonel Min and his team are inside Dong Chiol's apartment. They find a gun that is suspected to be the murder weapon. They immediately lift fingerprints from it and discover they match Dong Chiol's. Furthermore, they find a piece of paper with Guangzhou's name on it in the room. Colonel Min suspects that Guangzhou might be Dong Chiol's next target, so he orders Zhou to investigate. Meanwhile, Jae-young-hee, for helping Dong Chiol escape, is brought to the police station for questioning. But she genuinely doesn't know anything about Dong Chiol's whereabouts. Just then, Colonel Min unexpectedly receives a call from Dong Chiol. Dong Chiol also recognizes the voice on the other end, but doesn't say much. He just tells Colonel Min that the real killer of Chairman Park is someone else, and that these people wanted to steal the glasses. Furthermore, Chairman Park died from being injected with poison, not from gunshot wounds. Dong Chiol asks Colonel Min to examine the body closely. Then, he reveals his plans to go to Guangzhou's house, telling him to come there to collect his body and retrieve the glasses. He hangs up the phone. Colonel Min is skeptical of what Dong Chiol told him, but he still looks into Guangzhou's location and sends his men there. Sukho, after finding out that Dong Chiol is going after Guangzhou, immediately orders the assassins nearby to set up an ambush. He wants Dong Chiol dead and those glasses recovered at all costs. Meanwhile, Dong Chiol has secretly broken into Guangzhou's house. Seeing his enemy in front of him, he's consumed with rage, wanting to kill him instantly. But first, Dong Chiol has a question he needs answered. What did his wife say before she died? Guangzhou doesn't say a word. He just quietly grabs a pen and writes something on his hand. Your daughter is still alive. When Dong Chiol finds out that the daughter he's never met is still alive, he's overwhelmed with emotion. He immediately demands to know where his daughter is. Just then, the assassins outside launch their attack, and the house explodes into chaos. Dong Chiol is forced to hide under a sofa, afraid to show his face. Guangzhou uses the chaos to escape. Seeing this, Dong Chiol doesn't hesitate. He seizes the opportunity and gives chase. Colonel Min's men have surrounded the entire apartment building. Dong Chiol chases Guangzhou to a shopping mall, but the place is packed with people. In the end, Guangzhou still manages to get away. What Dong Chiol doesn't expect is that the assassins are also chasing him. Luckily, he has superhuman skills and can take down the assassins. By the time Colonel Min's men arrive at the scene, Dong Chiol has already disappeared. However, they find equipment from the National Security Office on the assassin, who is actually a North Korean defector. That night, Colonel Min finds Suk-ho at a restaurant. He questions Suk-ho about the assassins and what the deal is with the glasses. Suk-ho simply replies, "This is a national secret. You don't have the right to know." This makes Colonel Min furious. After leaving the restaurant, he feels like there might be something bigger going on. So, he orders Joe to urgently investigate Guangzhou, while he goes to the medical examiner to ask about Chairman Park's cause of death. The medical examiner seems hesitant, not wanting to say much, and insists that Chairman Park died from gunshot wounds. Seeing this, Colonel Min slips the medical examiner his business card and tells him that if there are any problems with this case, he will be held responsible. Soon after, Colonel Min goes to see Joe. After a period of urgent investigation, Joe has discovered that Dong Chiol was a political sacrifice, betrayed by his own country, and that Guangzhou killed his wife and then fled to South Korea. At this point, Colonel Min understands that Dong Chiol is chasing Guangzhou to avenge the deaths of his wife and daughter. As the investigation deepens, an even bigger secret is about to be revealed. It turns out that Suk-ho has been secretly recruiting North Korean defectors, like Guangzhou, to do his dirty work jobs that he can't be publicly associated with. In return, he gives these defectors new identities so they can settle down and live stable lives in South Korea. Joe doesn't just investigate Suk-ho. He also takes a look at Jaeyoung-hee. The results are surprising. Jaeyoung-hee is not as innocent as she seems. 2 years ago, she was a famous reporter. Then, she got inside information about Suk-ho's shady activities from a source and was about to expose him. But before she could, her superiors fired her. Her source was a pastor who had been helping defecting families, including Dong Chiol's wife and daughter. After Suk-ho found out the pastor had betrayed him, he revealed the pastor's location to the North Korean authorities. The pastor and the defectors were brutally murdered. So, in a way, Suk-ho is also Dong Chiol's enemy. After that horrific event, Jaeyoung-hee didn't give up. She knew Suk-ho was secretly gathering defectors to work for him. Plus, she had previously investigated Dong Chiol and knew he was incredibly skilled. She guessed that Suk-ho would try to recruit Dong Chiol as well. So, she pretended to be filming a documentary to get close to him, hoping to gather some evidence of Suk-ho's crimes. But Jaeyoung-hee miscalculated. Dong Chiol had no intention of joining Suk-ho's side. However, she did find out that Dong Chiol's wife and daughter had been killed and that he was seeking revenge. Just then, Colonel Min unexpectedly receives a call from Dong Chiol. He wants to trade the glasses for Guangzhou, but Colonel Min has no idea what's in the glasses and refuses the deal. Then, Dong Chiol threatens Colonel Min that if he doesn't bring Guangzhou to him, he will contact a reporter and expose the secret of the glasses. If that happens, the National Security Office will be in big trouble. After hanging up, Dong Chiol contacts Jaeyoung-hee and tells her he has a big story to tell her. As Jaeyoung-hee's car starts moving, Colonel Min, who has been keeping her under surveillance, immediately gets the report. He mobilizes all his forces to follow her. They head to a large shopping mall. Dong Chiol's counter-surveillance skills are incredible. He hides from a distance and, through his phone, directs Jaeyoung-hee, step by step, to escape the police pursuit. Then, he helps Jaeyoung-hee quickly drive away. But Dong Chiol underestimated Colonel Min, and his location was discovered. A tense chase begins through the crowded streets. Finally, with a stroke of luck, Dong Chiol successfully escapes the police encirclement. Colonel Min loses him once again. That night, Dong Chiol takes Jaeyoung-hee to an abandoned building to hide. He gets out Chairman Park's glasses. After soaking them in a special solution, he removes the microfilm. It's covered in dense numerical sequences, looking like the formula for something. He puts the film in a matchbox and hands it to Jae-young-hee, telling her everything that happened that night at Chairman Park's house, all on camera. Meanwhile, with Dong Chiol escaping again, Suk-ho's superiors are absolutely furious. They directly confront Colonel Min, berating him for being incompetent and failing to capture Dong Chiol time and time again. The superiors even suspect that Colonel Min is colluding with the enemy and forbid him from participating in the case. As things escalate, his superiors also reveal the secret of the glasses. 2 years ago, the National Security Office discovered that Chairman Park was building a secret research institute overseas, researching a new type of chemical weapon. This weapon is as destructive as several hydrogen bombs going off at the same time, and the formula for the chemical weapon is hidden in Chairman Park's glasses. When the National Security Office found out Chairman Park was going to visit North Korea, they immediately became alarmed, fearing the formula would fall into enemy hands. So, the National Security Office secretly arranged for Suk-ho to conduct surveillance. Although the National Security Office doesn't allow Colonel Min to participate in the case, as someone from the military intelligence agency, he still has the right to investigate North Korean operatives, so he doesn't give up on tracking down Dong Chiol. Soon after, the medical examiner, unable to take it anymore, demands to meet Colonel Min and tell him the truth. The real cause of Chairman Park's death was poisoning. Although Dong Chiol's fingerprints were on the murder weapon, the fingerprints on the bullet inside Chairman Park's body were not his. This means the real killer of Chairman Park is someone else. Colonel Min's first suspect is Suk-ho, who was monitoring the scene that night. So, he calls Joe and asks him to find a way to collect Suk-ho's fingerprints and get all his call records. Because of their mentor-student relationship, Joe finally agrees. And then, patrol officers unexpectedly find the car that Dong Chiol used to escape. With Colonel Min dismissed from the case, Suk-ho has complete control. As soon as he receives the news, he sends the police to arrest Dong Chiol, but in the shadows, he sends Guangzhou and another defector ahead to Dong Chiol's hiding place to retrieve the formula. Joe overhears this and secretly informs Colonel Min of the situation. In an instant, 3 forces are heading towards Dong Chiol. At this moment, Dong Chiol is outside using a public phone to call the National Security Office. He finds that Suk-ho answers the phone. Suk-ho arrogantly says that Guangzhou will be there to get the glasses immediately, telling him to just wait. Dong Chiol realizes something is wrong, throws down the phone, and rushes back to Jae-young-hee, but he's a step too late. Jae-young-hee has been knocked unconscious. Another defector has taken the matchbox with the microfilm. Guangzhou is the only one left, ready to eliminate any witnesses. At the crucial moment, Dong Chiol appears. He dives in, tackling Guangzhou to the ground. The pent-up hatred inside Dong Chiol is released completely in this moment. He throws vicious punches, unleashing relentless, deadly moves, determined to tear Guangzhou apart today. However, Guangzhou is no ordinary opponent. Facing Dong Chiol's attacks, he counters move for move. The two fight each other to a standstill. In the end, Dong Chiol's strength proves to be slightly superior, leaving Guangzhou gasping for air. Dong Chiol continues to press him for the location of his daughter. At this point, Guangzhou reveals what happened that day. It turns out that the government sent a total of 2 operatives to eliminate the traitors. When Guangzhou saw Dong Chiol's wife and daughter, he couldn't bring himself to kill them and wanted to let them go. But the other operative disregarded everything and started frantically shooting the traitors in the house. Although Guangzhou managed to pull out his gun and take out the other operative, all the traitors at the scene had already died. The only survivor was Dong Chiol's daughter. Later, she fled to South Korea and relied on Suk-ho. But Suk-ho sold Dong Chiol's daughter to human traffickers, so now he doesn't know where Dong Chiol's daughter is. He utters his last words and dies. Immediately after, Dong Chiol wakes Jae-young-hee up and tries to get her out of there, but the police have surrounded the place. Seeing the situation, Dong Chiol decisively jumps out of the window to make sure Jae-young-hee isn't discovered. He's left with no choice but to run and attract the police's attention. Despite his best efforts to evade the police encirclement, he's cornered near a river. Dong Chiol can only choose to jump into the river, thereby escaping danger. Meanwhile, just as Jae-young-hee is about to leave, Colonel Min arrives just in time. After finding out that the formula has been taken by the National Security Office, he knows it must be Suk-ho's doing again. Luckily, Jae-young-hee's camera has recorded the image of the formula. Colonel Min wants to take her to expose the truth. The two are preparing to go to a lab to see what the formula actually is. On the way, Colonel Min receives a call from Joe. By investigating Suk-ho's call records, Joe discovered that he has been in close contact with arms dealers in the Middle East recently. Furthermore, before Chairman Park's death, Suk-ho was also constantly contacting him. From this, it can be seen that after Suk-ho found out that Chairman Park had researched the weapon formula, he actively contacted him to buy it and sell it to the arms dealers, but was refused. Later, when the news of Chairman Park's visit to North Korea was announced, Suk-ho decided to take drastic action, sending people to steal the formula. But Dong Chiol appeared like an obstacle in the middle of the road, forcing him to fake the scene into a mass shooting, using the excuse to frame Dong Chiol. He then created false evidence to threaten the medical examiner into keeping quiet about the truth. All of this was orchestrated by Suk-ho. At this point, it's too late to turn back. Suk-ho follows the formula and tracks down the arms dealer. He is completely stunned when the dealer examines the goods and discovers that it's not a chemical weapon at all, but a super-grade buckwheat seed. As everyone knows, because North Korea's climate is not suitable for the growth of buckwheat, the total food production has never been able to increase, resulting in a large portion of the North Korean population not having enough to eat. Therefore, Chairman Park poured his efforts into researching this genetically modified buckwheat seed, which can significantly increase the yield and survival rate of buckwheat. To solve the problem of famine in North Korea, Suk-ho is stunned when he learns the truth. He spent so much effort to get something that turns out to be just a super seed. He immediately calls the source who leaked the information and curses him out. As for Colonel Min, after learning about this, he finally understands the meaning of Chairman Park's words. Bury it. Afterwards, the two prepare to expose Suk-ho's conspiracy. At this moment, Suk-ho sees that the situation is getting more and more serious, so he quickly organizes a press conference. He wants to use the fake gun evidence to frame Dong Chiol. Completely unexpectedly, Dong Chiol